Hello YouTube, this is Chuck, and I'm still over at the lake. It's still Friday, April 28th, and I was going to shoot another video, but this lady came out here and she's out here feeding the geese, and the geese, of course, are loving every bit of it, so I thought I'd kind of share that with you before I tell you my story for the day. And beautiful afternoon. It's kind of windy, so I'm sitting in the van to try to stay out of the wind. I just shot that other video, and I moved the van just a little bit because I had some people come and block my shot. So anyway, let me get you back around here. Last video I was kind of got myself a little bit too far out of the side of the camera, so I'll try to do a little bit better on this one. But I want to do a different subject. I've been doing motorcycle stuff for the last 3 videos, and a little bit ago this afternoon I stopped over at the gift shop. We've got something going on next Tuesday, and we're checking to see if they needed any more help for the event. And so anyway, while I was there, one of the guys in there was talking about a issue he had at his house involving a snake, and one of his dogs went after a rattlesnake and ended up getting bit by the rattlesnake, and of course they had to do an emergency run to the vet, and they had to do the snake antivenom, and it cost quite a bit of money. And anyway, he was telling that story, so it made me think about the snake calls that we used to go on when I was with the fire department. So this one's going to be titled Firefighter Stories, but we're going to talk about some snake calls. And we have quite a few snakes up in this country, and the 2 predominant species of rattlesnakes that we see are the western diamondback and the Arizona black. Well, the Arizona black rattlesnake is they can be pretty aggressive. The western diamondbacks not so much, but the Arizona blacks can get pretty aggressive. And so a couple of stories today I want to tell you about involve Arizona black rattlesnakes. And first one I'll tell you is that first of all, are snake calls really an emergency? Well, obviously if they bite somebody, they're an emergency, but a lot of the people that live here came from places where they didn't have to deal with snakes, and so as a result, that snake is an emergency to them, and we don't want somebody messing with one, trying to get it out themselves and getting hurt. And we ended up with professional snake handling equipment eventually, but the first story I'm going to tell you, we didn't have that yet. And so anyway, the other thing is that firefighters work shift work, and they have what they call A, B, and C shifts, and they work, nowadays they work a 48-96 shift, so they're on 2 full 24-hour days, and then they get 4 days off. And so, after A shift works there 2 days, then B shift comes on, works there 2 days, and then C shift comes and works there 2 days, and then A shift is back again. And that's kind of the way it's done all over the country. But in our place, we had some of the guys on some of the shifts were what we call critter guys, and they'd handle just about anything that they weren't scared of anything, and they'd take care of snakes. And some of the guys really got into that stuff. But our B shift was they weren't snake guys. They didn't like them. They tried to stay away from them. They were kind of scared of them. And I was a critter guy, and so we had one day we had a call for a snake in the north part of town, and it was after school had let out, and basically what had happened, the report came in that the kids are throwing little pebbles at the snake, and they got the snake pretty mad. And so, we were kind of afraid that one of the kids would get too close and get bit by the snake. And so anyway, the engine crew was up doing something, and they weren't critter guys, and so I said, well, I'll go take care of it. So I went and got in my car and drove out there, and so I get out there, and there's probably 15 school-age kids hanging around this bush, and about 5 or 6 moms. And this snake is all coiled up, wrapped up in this bush, rattling to beat heck because it's pretty upset. And the little kids have been throwing pebbles at it, and they got him all stirred up, and he was mad. And so at that time we'd kill him. Later on we got to be a little bit more environmentally aware, and so we didn't kill him anymore. But at that time we still did. And so I got in the back of my car and got a shovel, and so I went out there, and this snake, he was all wrapped up in this bush, and there was no way he was going to come out of that bush, that I was going to be able to get him out of that bush. The only way to do it was to make him madder. So I asked everybody to stay back and, get back a good 20, 30 feet. And so I start poking at this snake with my shovel, and sure enough, it's a big Arizona black, and he was mad. And so pretty soon he comes out of the bush and comes after me. And so as soon as he got clear of the bush where I could do it, I dispatched him with the shovel. And for those of you who don't know about snakes, is the poison glands are located right behind the head. And so if you cut off their head about 6 inches back, then all the poison and everything is up in the front part of the snake. And so anyway, I cut the snake's head off and I pushed it 3 foot away, and of course the nervous system is still operating and it's still snapping and acting like it's trying to bite, but it doesn't have any body to bite with. And so then I picked up the rest of the snake, and then I went into educational mode. I've taught for years and I got the school teacher mentality, so I had everybody come in there close, and they were feeling the snake, showing them that it wasn't slimy and all this kind of stuff. And all the while I'm kind of keeping an eye on this head, make sure nobody goes and messes with the head, because it can still bite you even though it doesn't have a body hooked to it anymore. So anyway, one of the moms asked if she could have the rattles, and it was an older snake and it had a pretty good set of rattles on it. So I said, sure, you can have the rattles. And so I put the snake back down on the ground, and I put my foot on it. And like a lot of medical guys, I carried the little holster with the medical scissors. And so I pulled out my medical scissors, and I was going to cut the tail off, the rattles off the snake, and give it to that mom. And so when I went down to do that, I noticed the snake was backing up like it was going to strike. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you don't have a head, you don't have any fangs. They're laying 3 feet away, so it can't hurt me. Well, just about the time I put the scissors into that, the head of that, or the body of that snake, minus the head, it came back and it struck the back of my right hand, probably, 20 mile an hour. Bam! Scared the living tar out of me, made me jump a foot. I dropped what I was doing, and everybody started laughing, and I started laughing too, but in all reality, it scared me. I knew it couldn't hurt me, but man, that snake hit me hard. And anyway, I had a big black and blue mark on the back of my hand for about a week. But at that time, I got bit by a headless snake, or struck by a headless snake that was trying really hard to bite me, and he couldn't do it because he didn't have a head anymore. But that's one of my snake stories. Another one I'll tell you is that once again we got dispatched to a snake call, and it was a B shift call. And so I kind of tagged along. There was a snake in somebody's garage. And so we get out there, and the little guy's got his garage door open, and he's pointing back behind his workbench. And we look in there, and once again, it's the Arizona black. But there's a bunch of them. We couldn't tell even how many. Well, apparently the snakes got together, and they decided that was a good place to do what snakes do and make little snakes. And there was a whole big ball of them having a orgy, if you will. And so I called to the guys behind me, and I said, hey, come look at this. And I turned around, there wasn't none of them there. So I looked back outside, and the fire truck's sitting in the driveway, and the engine officer standing on top of the truck. He didn't want to have anything to do with the snakes. He went and crawled up on top of the truck. So I had to fish the snakes all out there by myself, because his crew didn't want to have anything to do with snakes. They didn't. That's not what he was hired for. So basically, we all got a good laugh out of it. I gave him a hard time for a couple of years about that. The third call I'm going to tell you about, this happened on an afternoon. An A shift was on. An A shift were critter guys. And in fact, I'll use a picture that I've got of one of the A shift captain. He was off duty, but I got a pretty good snake picture of him. And in the comments on there, I'll tell you about what that's about. But I'll use that picture for the thumbnail on the video. So anyway, so we sent him out on a call. And so he went out to rescue this unknown type snake. And he came back, and it was a big bull snake. So it was non-venomous. And it had just shed its skin, because the color was it was a pretty snake, a really, really pretty snake. It was very docile. So apparently it had just eaten something, and it was still kind of it was mellow, and it was a pretty good sized snake. And so he came in to show me, and And so it was a Friday afternoon, and Friday afternoon, a lot of times over at City Hall, a lot of times the overhead's all gone for the day because they leave a little bit early, and so it's kind of a laid back time sometimes. So anyway, I took this bull snake and I wrapped it around my arm, and it was just enjoying life. It wasn't aggressive at all, and so I went and got in my car and I drove down to City Hall and I took it around through the various departments at City Hall and showing the gals at City Hall and this pretty snake. And anyway, about half of them were curious and wanted to come and pet it and touch it and see what it was like and all that kind of stuff. And the other half of them were cussing at me and trying to crawl out the window because they were scared of it. So we all had a big laugh about that, and I got kind of gently told later, don't do that again. But it was fun at the time, and we were kind of feeling our oats that day. So that's another snake story. So I got to tell you one more. That'll make 4 of them. That's probably enough for this video. But we got called once again. A shift was on, and they're critter guys. And anyway, we got called for a snake in somebody's kitchen. And so I always told the guys, I said, if you get anything that sounds interesting, give me a holler. I'd like to come and see it. I didn't go on the call initially. The engine crew went up there, and pretty soon phone rings with the engine captain. He says, you might want to see this one. So I get in the car and I drive up there with them. And what had happened was a lady had moved into a house, and with her kids and her little dog, and she'd only lived there about a week, and she noticed that her bag of dog food got knocked over 2 or 3 times. Dog food got spilled. Well, she had a puppy, and she thought her puppy was doing it, and so one day she goes walking in the kitchen, and all of a sudden she sees this head of this big snake looking at her from under the refrigerator. And so she panics and calls 911. So we go up there to get the snake, and of course we're thinking it's going to be a little bull snake or something. It's not going to be a very big snake. She kept telling us how big it was. So the guys, basically to humor her, they ended up moving all of the dining room table and stuff over into the living room and taking all the food out of the refrigerator and moved the refrigerator out where they could lay it down. And they laid the refrigerator down, and so where they could look underneath it, and oh my goodness, the whole bottom of this refrigerator was all snake. And it was a pretty good sized snake. Well, it didn't want to come out of there, and so they were trying to get it out and wrestle with it, and they finally managed to get it out of there, and it was a boa constrictor. And it was probably 6 foot long or better, and a pretty bulky snake, and it had been eating dog food, so it was pretty fat, and it was mad, and it was hissing at us, and so they were kind of wrestling with it, and anyway, they got the snake out of there, and we had no idea how it got there. We didn't know anything about it, and so we didn't have any idea what to do. There was no wildlife outfit for us to give it to, so the captain on the engine, like I say, he was a critter guy, and it'll be his picture on the thumbnail holding another rattlesnake that we saw up on a Jeep trip. But anyway, so he decided to take it home. So he took it home, and he named it Gus. And Gus lived with him in his house for many years, and he just let it roam free in his house, much to his wife's consternation. She didn't care for Gus all that much. But anyway, Gus lived a full life, and eventually he ended up giving Gus to somebody else. And I don't know how long boa constrictors live, but we were trying to figure out how that whatever happened to that snake, how it got there. And of course the police got involved, and it turned out that the guy that had lived in the house before the lady that had just moved in there, it turned out that he left in the middle of the night, owing a bunch of rent, and when they checked into it, he had about 3 warrants out for his arrest. And so he departed for parts unknown in the middle of the night, left his snake behind, and he certainly wasn't going to leave anybody his phone number, so we had no way of trying to contact him to try to give him his snake back. So Gus went to live with our captain, and that's kind of the end of that. That's kind of the end of that story. So I thought you'd enjoy something a little bit different. So snake calls, we went on a lot of them. That's only the tip of the iceberg, but that's the 4 of them. We had a lot of fun. It's something a little bit different, and I was a critter guy, and the A shift captain was a critter guy, but some of the guys weren't. So with that, I guess that's probably enough for now. I don't know how long this has gone. I'm going to pivot around and show you in front of me. The grass is greening up here at the park. It's really just a pretty spot. Once again, I'll pan around and give you a look. We'll talk to you again on another one pretty quick. So all of you have a good day. I always tell you to love each other and be nice to each other and take care of yourself. God gave us a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you again real soon. So peace out.